Okay, welcome to today's lesson. So we're carrying on looking at information text, and today what we're going to do is write an introduction to an information book. So we're going to look at information books in a little bit more detail, but particularly looking at the introductions. So our learning objective today is to write an engaging introduction to an information book, and your success criteria is: I know the importance of an introduction, I can create my own introduction, and as a little bit extra, you're going to start to plan your contents page. Okay, so let's warm our brains up today for writing. So here I've put verb, adjective, noun, determiner, and preposition. Okay. Can you spot the verb, adjective, noun, determiner, and preposition in this sentence? Pause the video now, have a look. Now, you might have noticed that one of them was missing. Can you tell me which one was missing? Yes, you're right, it was an adjective. Now remember, we talked about adjectives being really important last week when writing our fairy tale. So let's have a look. So I've added some adjectives in. So we've got the is a determiner, and we've got two the little brave. So I've put you've guessed it right, an expanded noun phrase, little brave boy, with my comma in between little and brave, and I've put those in blue to see my adjectives. The boy is a noun, swam is the verb because it's a doing or being word, and then in is my preposition telling me where it's doing it, and then the freezing river, and we've got another noun there at the end with river. Okay, so those are what we call the word classes. So we can class words as different things, can't we? Okay, either nouns, verbs, adjectives. We haven't got any adverbs in there, but we've got lots of different names for different words, and they're called word classes. My turn. Word classes. Your turn. Good. Okay, so hopefully we're ready for, that was a little recap, so hopefully we're ready for the learning today. So today we are going to have a little grammar focus on past, present and future tense. We're going to investigate introductions, and then we're going to write our own introductions, and we're going to start to plan a contents page, which you might add to as you go through your theme lessons. So let's get started then. So the first thing we're going to do is to have a little grammar focus on past, present and future tense. Now we have touched on this a little bit in lessons, but this is a recap and maybe some activities to do as you go along the video, all about grammar, all about past, present and future.
So let's look at tenses in general. Let's start with past tense. We use the past tense to talk about things that have happened. There are two main ones, simple past and continuous past. Here are two examples of it being used in sentences. The first one is a simple past. The witches met on the heath to discuss the prophecy of Macbeth. The second one, the witches were meeting to discuss the prophecy of Macbeth. That is written in continuous past. Met is in simple past and were meeting is in continuous past. Present tense. So we use present tense to talk about things that are happening right now. Again, there are two main ones, simple present and continuous present. Let's look at them in sentences. Macbeth and Lady Macbeth plot the death of King Duncan. That's in simple present. Macbeth and Lady Macbeth are plotting the death of King Duncan. That's in continuous present. The last one, future tense. We use future tense to talk about things that will happen. Again, the two main ones are simple future and continuous future. So in the first sentence, let's have a look at simple future. Macbeth will kill Duncan while he is sleeping. The second one, Macbeth will be killing Duncan while he is sleeping. Let's see if you remember what the definitions are for each of the tenses. So, we use this tense to talk about things that will happen. What tense would that be? We use this tense to talk about things that have happened. What tense is this? And we use this tense to talk about things that are happening now. I want you to pause the video and have a go at matching the definitions to the tenses on the left. You can use your finger to draw an imaginary line between the definition and the tenses, or if you'd like, you could write it down. Pause the video and have a go now. Brilliant. So, let's have a look. We use past tense to talk about things that have happened, exactly, and we use present tense to talk about things that are happening now, and future tense when we're talking about things that will happen. Well done if you got that.
Okay, now you've learned about past, present and future tense, we're going to start thinking about writing our introductions. So first of all, we're going to look at some examples. So I've got my big pile of books here, and I've been looking through, trying to find some different examples of introductions. So what I'd like you to do is have a look at some of your information books that you maybe found yesterday and see if you can find some examples of introductions, because that's a really good way to start. Remember, really good writers, Magpie and maybe even steal ideas from other writers, and there might be some really good sentences that you can borrow for today's work. So I've been doing exactly that. So when I finish doing mine, maybe you could pause the video and see if you can find your own. So I found in here, so I got the Viking Times book, okay, and it says the introduction here doesn't say introduction in the contents page. It says who were the Vikings. So the author of this, it's a whole company called What's Books. They've decided, well, actually, I don't need to do a whole introduction. I need to write who were the Vikings to start my book. So that's what they've decided to do. For the Inventions book here, they've got their introduction is a bit of a foreword. Now, you might have seen a foreword before, and that's written by somebody, maybe the editor or a famous person or somebody who is really interested in the topic or famous about the topic, who writes about what the book might be about. Okay. Now, my Great Buildings book that we looked at last lesson, okay, has got a very clear, and they've used introduction as their title. Okay, and I've stolen lots of ideas from here to write my introduction example that I'm going to show you in a little while. This Early Britain one doesn't have an introduction, but it does have a mini introduction to each big title. So this one's got an introduction about early Britain, and then and it's got all the information through the book about early Britain. And then it's got, if you can see here, the Romans, okay, just there. It's got a mini introduction on each page. So introductions can be written in different ways, but I want us to do our introduction like this book has got, okay? So we're going to have a look at what an introduction needs. So here's my example. Long ago, people built their homes and shelters out of natural materials. There were no great buildings, just a roof over their head, protection from weather and the harsh environment. So a little introduction about what we're saying there. We've got a little bit of explanation on what buildings were used for long ago. Okay. As we pass through history, buildings became more permanent and nomadic lifestyles were abandoned. Can you see I've used lots of technical language there? Permanent and nomadic. Nomadic means that they were free to move around, and they would quickly gather up their tent or their shelter and then move on to the next place. But the towns grew, then cities. Now we have some magnificent buildings built thousands of years ago, which show the developments and rise of buildings. Religion and culture have been the driving force behind architects and engineers' great buildings. Okay, and so again, I'm using lots and lots of technical language. Okay, The next paragraph. In this book, we see how buildings have developed and changed through history, starting in prehistory all the way through to modern buildings. Then we look at what future buildings might look at. What do buildings need to look like? Green homes I've put there, and there I've put a rhetorical question to engage the reader, and then green homes, and that might make some people really curious and want to know what the book's going to be about. Okay, so I have used lots of techniques as well, like I've still used some fronted adverbials, but you can see my style of writing is more factual. It's not doing lots of adjectives and fluffy words that I like to say. Okay, it's more factual. And then at the end I put, I hope you enjoy this book and you can find out about how homes have developed through time. Okay, so there's my example of a good introduction. So, and then here I've put another example of a contents page. So I've put here, page 1, introduction, page 2, Stone Age, page 3, Romans, and then I might like to put in there, page 4, information about Romans. So you might want to do or I could have page 2, picture of a Stone Age building, page 3, information text about Stone Age buildings. Okay, so you can start to develop your contents page as you go through. So your task today is to write your own introduction to your buildings information book. Start to create a contents page. You can see I've used the wrong determiner there. It's a contents page. I think that's because I changed it at the last minute. Okay, so writing your own introduction, and remember to magpie from the information books that you found. You could even magpie from me, so you could rewind the video and go back to my introduction and start to steal some ideas. But I do want to see you writing in that formal, posh voice, okay? But we don't need all the fluffy adjectives. It's more factual this time. So good luck with your learning today.